picture this for a second. Everything's finally going well. You've got a relationship that's healthy and loving, or maybe you've been crushing it at work, or you're actually sticking to those habits you set for yourself. Things are genuinely good. And then somehow, almost like clockwork, you do something that messes it all up. You pick a fight over nothing, you stop showing up, you fall back into old patterns, you create drama where there was none. And afterwards you're sitting there thinking, why did I do that? Why would I destroy something that was actually working? If this sounds familiar, welcome to one of the strangest and most frustrating aspects of human psychology, the fact that we sometimes work incredibly hard to sabotage the very things we say we want. Here's what makes self-sabotage so weird and so worth understanding. It's not random. It's not just bad luck or poor decision-making. Self-sabotage is actually your brain trying to protect you, which sounds completely backwards until you understand what's really happening under the surface. Your conscious mind might want success and love and growth, but there are parts of your brain running much older software, parts that are still operating on survival logic that made sense thousands of years ago or made sense when you were 5 years old but doesn't serve you anymore. These parts see good things as potential threats, and they respond the only way they know how, by trying to get you back to familiar territory even if that territory is painful. Let's start with probably the most common driver of self-sabotage, and that's the fear of success itself. Yeah, you heard that right. We talk all the time about fear of failure, but fear of success is actually more insidious because it doesn't make logical sense, so we don't recognize it. Think about what success actually means. If you succeed, things change. Your life looks different. People might treat you differently. You might have new responsibilities. You might lose the comfort of being the underdog or having an excuse. Success means entering unknown territory, and unknown territory is inherently threatening to the primitive parts of your brain that just want you to survive. So right when you're on the verge of breaking through to something better, your brain hits the panic button and suddenly you're doing things that guarantee you'll stay exactly where you are. I saw this play out with someone I know who kept getting close to finishing their novel. They'd been working on it for years, and every single time they got near the end, something would happen. Their laptop would crash and they hadn't backed up their work, or they'd decide the whole thing was garbage and delete huge sections, or they'd start 3 new projects and abandon the novel completely. On the surface this looked like bad luck or artistic temperament, but what was really happening was that finishing the novel meant they'd have to send it to publishers and face real rejection or maybe real success, and both of those possibilities were more terrifying than just perpetually working on it. The self-sabotage kept them safe in this permanent state of potential. Then there's the issue of identity, and this is huge. You have a story about who you are. We all do. Maybe your story is I'm the person who struggles, or I'm not someone who gets lucky breaks, or I'm the family screw-up, or I'm just not the type who has healthy relationships. These stories feel true because you've lived with them so long, you've built your whole sense of self around them. Now imagine something good happens that contradicts that story. Your brain experiences this as an identity crisis. It's not just that good things are happening, it's that these good things threaten your understanding of who you are. And maintaining your identity, even a painful one, feels more important to your brain than being happy. So you sabotage the good thing to get back to a version of reality that matches your internal story. This shows up constantly in relationships. Someone who grew up believing they're unlovable finally finds a partner who treats them well, and it creates this unbearable cognitive dissonance. Their experience is saying you are loved, but their identity is saying you are unlovable. One of these has to give. And often what gives is the relationship. They'll create conflict, they'll cheat, they'll find reasons to be critical, they'll push the person away, anything to restore the familiar narrative that they're not worthy of love. It's absolutely heartbreaking to watch from the outside, but from the inside it feels like they're just seeing reality clearly, they're just being realistic. They don't recognize they're actively creating the reality they claim to be observing. There's also this fascinating psychological concept called the upper limit problem, and it explains so much about why we sabotage good things. Basically, each of us has an unconscious thermostat for how much happiness and success we think we're allowed to have. This setting was installed early, based on your family dynamics, your early experiences, messages you got about your worth and your place in the world. When you exceed that setting, when things get too good, your internal alarm goes off. You've exceeded your tolerance for positive experience. It sounds insane, but your brain literally doesn't know how to process being that happy or that successful, so it finds ways to bring you back down to your set point. You start a fight, you sabotage a project, you develop mysterious health problems, you do something to create familiar struggle because struggle is what feels normal. And we need to talk about the role of unworthiness in all of this because it's probably the deepest root. Somewhere along the way, many of us developed this core belief that we don't deserve good things. Maybe you made a mistake as a kid and internalized that you're bad. Maybe your parents were critical or neglectful and you concluded something must be wrong with you. Maybe you experienced trauma and your brain decided you must have deserved it. These beliefs are usually completely irrational, but they sit in your subconscious like landmines. Then good things start happening, and your unworthiness belief says this doesn't add up, good things don't happen to people like me. And your brain will work to restore what it sees as the natural order by destroying the good thing. You're not consciously thinking I don't deserve this, but that belief is running the show underneath everything. Here's where self-sabotage gets really cruel. It often disguises itself as something else entirely. It shows up as perfectionism, where you set impossible standards that guarantee you'll fail or never finish. It shows up as procrastination, where you avoid doing the thing that could lead to success. It shows up as picking fights or creating drama right when things are going well. It shows up as substance abuse or other destructive behaviors that conveniently derail your progress. It shows up as playing small, not applying for the job, not sharing your work, not really trying so you can't really fail. Your conscious mind has all these logical explanations for these behaviors, but underneath, they're all serving the same function of keeping you safe from the threat of things being too good. The relationship between self-sabotage and control is fascinating too. Sometimes we sabotage things because at least then we're in control of when and how things fall apart. If you're waiting for the other shoe to drop, if you're certain that good things never last, there's this perverse relief in just making the bad thing happen yourself. You don't have to live in that anxious space of waiting anymore. You don't have to wonder when it'll all come crashing down because you crashed it down yourself on your own terms. It's self-destructive, but it gives you a sense of agency that waiting passively for disaster doesn't. Your brain would rather have you create predictable pain than tolerate the uncertainty of sustained goodness. Childhood patterns play such a massive role in adult self-sabotage that you really can't understand it without looking backwards. If you grew up in chaos, chaos feels like home. Calm and stability actually feel wrong and threatening because your nervous system isn't calibrated for them. So you create chaos in your adult life not because you want to suffer but because chaos is what your body recognizes as normal. If you grew up having to earn love through achievement but never quite achieving enough, you might sabotage success as an adult because success would mean confronting the fact that achievement never actually brought the love you needed. If you grew up invisible, you might sabotage things that would make you visible because visibility feels dangerous even when you consciously crave it. There's also this thing where self-sabotage serves as a defense against future pain. If you convince yourself you don't really care, if you sabotage something before it gets too important, then you can't be truly hurt when it ends. This is especially common in relationships. You keep people at arm's length, you find flaws, you bail before things get serious, not because there's anything wrong with the person but because if you never fully invest, you never fully risk heartbreak. The sabotage feels protective. You're choosing smaller, controllable pain now over potentially devastating pain later. Your brain is running this calculation in the background and deciding that isolation is safer than connection, and then justifying all the behaviors that maintain that isolation. Let's talk about the cycle of self-sabotage because understanding the pattern is crucial to breaking it. Usually it starts with things going well, better than expected. Then anxiety creeps in, this feeling of waiting for something to go wrong, a sense of this is too good to be true. Then comes the behavior, the fight you pick, the opportunity you don't take, the way you stop putting in effort. Then the consequence, the thing falls apart like you knew it would. And here's the really painful part, there's often a sense of relief. The anxiety is gone because the thing you were afraid of happened. Your belief system is confirmed, see, good things don't last. And your identity is restored, you're back to being the person who struggles. Then the cycle starts over. Each time you go through it, it reinforces the pattern and makes it harder to break. Self-sabotage also has this relationship with attention and pattern recognition where your brain is constantly scanning for evidence that supports your existing beliefs. If you believe you always mess things up, you'll notice every tiny mistake and blow it out of proportion while completely ignoring all the things you do well. This creates a feedback loop where your beliefs shape what you pay attention to, which reinforces your beliefs, which shapes what you pay attention to. And within this loop, self-sabotage makes perfect sense. You're just doing what your pattern says you do. You're fulfilling the prophecy you've been telling yourself about who you are and how your life works. There's something really important to understand about the intention behind self-sabotage. It's not that you want to suffer or fail. Every behavior, even destructive ones, is trying to meet some kind of need or solve some kind of problem. Self-sabotage is usually trying to keep you safe, maintain your identity, avoid overwhelming emotions, stay in control, or protect you from anticipated pain. The problem is that the strategies your brain developed for safety are now causing you harm. They made sense at some point, maybe when you were young and actually powerless, maybe in an environment where you really weren't safe. But you're carrying those strategies into contexts where they don't apply anymore, where they're actively preventing you from having the life you want. And here's what's really tricky about trying to stop self-sabotaging. You can't just think your way out of it because it's not happening at the level of conscious thought. You can know intellectually that you deserve good things, that you're worthy of love, that success wouldn't be dangerous, but if your nervous system and your subconscious beliefs don't agree, they're going to keep running the old program. This is why self-help advice that's just about positive thinking or willpower often fails. You're trying to override deeply embedded survival strategies with conscious intention, and that's not how the brain works. Breaking the pattern requires actually getting underneath the behavior to understand what it's protecting you from. When you notice yourself about to sabotage something, you have to pause and ask, what am I afraid of here? What would it mean if this actually worked out? What threat does my brain think this good thing represents? And you have to approach those questions with curiosity rather than judgment, because judging yourself for self-sabotaging just adds another layer of pain and usually triggers more sabotage. The parts of you that are creating these patterns aren't evil or stupid, they're scared and they're trying to help. They just have really outdated information about what actually keeps you safe. The vulnerability piece is huge here too. Self-sabotage often kicks in hardest when we're on the verge of being truly seen or truly connected, because that level of intimacy is terrifying. If people really see you, they might reject you. If you really let yourself want something, you might not get it. If you really try, you might fail, and then you can't hide behind the excuse of not really trying. So you sabotage intimacy, you sabotage showing up fully, you sabotage giving your best effort, all to avoid the devastating possibility of being your real self and having that not be enough. The sabotage is armor, and removing it means standing in the world unprotected, which is genuinely frightening. What's interesting is that self-sabotage often increases right at the moment of potential breakthrough. You're in therapy and making progress, so you stop going. You're finally getting healthy, so you binge. You're about to close a big deal, so you ghost your client. It's like there's this part of you that knows change is coming and makes one last desperate attempt to maintain the status quo. Therapists call this the extinction burst, where a pattern actually intensifies right before it finally breaks. Understanding this can help you push through it instead of taking it as evidence that nothing will ever change. Recognizing your specific patterns of self-sabotage is critical. Some people sabotage through perfectionism and never finishing. Some through procrastination and avoidance. Some through relationship drama and pushing people away. Some through substance use or other numbing behaviors. Some through taking on too much and burning out. Some through staying in victim mentality and blaming circumstances. Your particular flavor of self-sabotage probably has a history, probably connects to specific wounds and beliefs. Once you can see your pattern clearly, you can start to interrupt it before it fully activates. And healing this stuff requires building new evidence. You have to have experiences of good things happening and nothing terrible occurring as a result. You have to practice tolerating positive emotions and success and intimacy without immediately destroying them. You have to slowly raise your thermostat for how much goodness you can handle. This takes time and it takes conscious effort because you're literally rewiring your brain's threat detection system. Every time you notice the urge to sabotage and choose differently, you're creating new neural pathways that say good things can be safe, you can be worthy, change doesn't have to be terrifying. At the end of the day, self-sabotage is one of the most human things we do because it comes from our brain's attempt to protect us combined with old wounds and outdated beliefs. It's not a character flaw, it's not weakness, it's just your mind trying to keep you safe using strategies that don't actually serve you anymore. Understanding that is the first step. The second step is developing compassion for the parts of yourself that are so scared of good things that they'd rather destroy them than risk the vulnerability of having them. And the third step is slowly, patiently teaching your brain that you can survive good things, that you deserve them, that you're safe enough now to let them stay. That's the real work, and it's some of the hardest and most worthwhile work you'll ever do.